The White House is threatening mass federal layoffs if the government shuts down next week, not just the typical temporary furloughs that we have seen with many shutdowns recently. They're talking about permanent layoffs, another Trump-backed purge of the federal workforce. White House Budget Director Russ Vought sent a memo to agencies yesterday ordering them to prepare. And he preemptively blamed the Democrats. Quote, "We remain hopeful that Democrats in Congress will not trigger a shutdown and the steps outlined above will not be necessary." House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries hit back. He called Vought a malignant political hack and said he would not be intimidated. The Washington Post's Mariana Sotomayor joins us at the table. Mariana, you spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill.
Yep.
Is there any hope that this will be averted at this time?
I mean, listen, we've seen so many times that we've gone right up to the hour and then maybe there is a solution, maybe there's a negotiation. But as of right now, the stalemate absolutely continues and Democrats are not budging despite this threat. If anything, they're pointing out the fact that Republicans hold the White House, the Senate, and the House. And Vought does not have to take this step at all. I mean, like you said, past shutdowns, there have been furloughs. Federal workers have had back pay. But this new threat to fire a number of federal workers, if anything, has shown a number of Democrats, including Senate Democrats who were kind of weighing whether to support this funding bill. They were genuinely weighing and wanted to know if Republicans in the future would continue to cut already appropriated funds, which we've seen happen through DOGE, through other measures that have happened already this year. So at this point in time, I really do not see Democrats, both in the House and the Senate, moving on this. So it's just an escalation.
And David, I just want to underscore how big a deal this would be. Because as I said, unfortunately, we have seen many government shutdowns of various lengths over the past several years. People don't get paid. They get furloughed, but then they tend to pass back pay. Not always, but tend to pass back pay. But the point is, it's temporary. This threat is that it's permanent. And that's what you hear from some Democrats, some quietly, some publicly, about their concern about the potential for a shutdown, because you're giving the Trump administration the keys to the kingdom and say, okay, do what you want. And this is what they're saying they'll do.
Well, this was part of the argument, remember, in the spring,
right,
that Schumer, when he got so much heat from his party for not putting up a fight, one of the arguments being made at the time, because remember, that's when Elon Musk was still here, DOGE was still in effect, that there was a real concern among Democrats that in a shutdown, the executive would go as to a maximalist approach, as Donald Trump is doing. So that is a real concern. It was intriguing to hear the president in the Oval Office, right? The first thing out of his mouth when he was asked about the shutdown was, well, of course, this will be all the Democrats' fault. It seems both Republicans and Democrats are spending a lot more time right now as the clock is ticking down, laying the groundwork for the political battle of who gets the blame, rather than actually trying to find an off-ramp to fund the government.
Well, and there was a meeting planned at the White House with the president and Democratic leaders, and the Republican leaders in Congress told the president that's not a good idea because we don't want to give in on that. Here is, well, I just want to say on the Schumer of it all, I talked to him on Sunday, asked him that very question, and his argument was that was 6 months ago, and now what you're seeing in the administration is even more insistence on doing it their way anyway, meaning they're going to do it anyway. And so what difference does it make? Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, was asked about the leverage that he might have. Let's listen.
The government were to shut down. What leverage do Democrats have at that point?
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. The country has been lectured all year about how Republicans are in charge. If the government shuts down, it will shut down because Donald Trump and Republicans in the House and the Senate have made that decision.
Explaining what the Democratic argument is in this current situation.
One, we've seen how bad, and the American people have seen how bad Trump's policies are. And second, they have shown that they're willing to go around the law if we don't stop them from that. Third, we Democrats are united now. We are totally united in saying we want to sit down, we want to negotiate. We're not going to get everything we want. They're not going to get everything they want. But to help deal with the chaos in health care caused by this big, so-called beautiful bill.
So, Anna, very clear right there. Chuck Schumer standing his ground, showing no indication of budging as that shutdown deadline creeps up on us just 5 days away from September 30th of next week.
All right, that's next Tuesday, Michael Schnell. Thank you. And my next guest is here to help us make sense of why we keep ending up in this same situation over and over again. Julian Zelizer joins us. He's a professor of history and public affairs at Princeton University. Julian, this wasn't always the way Congress operated. These shutdowns that seem to be just kind of a regular occurrence now weren't back then. What's changed?
Yeah, a key turning point was the mid-90s, 1995 and 96, when Speaker Newt Gingrich, Speaker of the House, a Republican, engaged in a standoff with President Clinton. And we had two government shutdowns, lengthy ones, in succession. And it backfired on Republicans. But since then, shutdowns have become a normal part of the back and forth in budget politics. And that's how we ended up here today.
There have been 20 funding gaps since Congress changed the way the budget process works in 1976. Should there be a 21st next week? What does history tell us about who's going to get the blame?
It's hard to tell. It was 1974 that we had the change in the process. Often Congress can get the blame. I mean, presidents do have the bully pulpit. They have the ability to cast this as an issue caused by the Congress, and legislators, even a Senator Schumer, the majority or minority leaders, don't have that same kind of capacity. One thing, they become less of a crisis point in recent years, which is also interesting. The public, they happen more frequently, and the public takes less notice. So it's hard to predict, but we're seeing how far President Trump will go, and I think Democrats are wary of that.
It seems no one wins in a shutdown. Break down, though, for our viewers, just how damaging a shutdown is, not just for Americans, but the whole world.
That's the real story. And frankly, that's how this has to be debated. This will affect the basic government services that people have, and that can range from the ability to obtain a visa to the ability to go to a national park. It will depend on the parameters of what's closed and what's shut down. But those services are frozen and can have huge effects. Someone who needs medical treatment can't come. And if the firing happens, that's a whole other level of pain. Government services are intertwined in how our society works. And it's hard to get workers back after they're removed. So this will have huge consequences.
Julian, you write in your latest piece for Foreign Policy, quote, as Democrats weigh their next moves to rein in this presidency and grow more willing to use hardball tactics that many party leaders have traditionally resisted, they must remain mindful of the damage they could inflict on the very institutions that their party values most, namely a healthy, functional, and robust federal government. I think a lot of Americans would argue we are long gone past that. Is this moment, this potential shutdown, different?
Well, look, we can't give up on the importance of governing. And I think you can have two thoughts at once. There can be a strong logic to fighting right now for Democrats to do this, to insist on accountability, to insist on the constitutional processes of government, but at the same time to be mindful that in the long run, we need to restore the health of government, and that will include stopping the use of shutdowns as part of politics. So I think both things are true. And once this crisis subsides, it's a little like the redistricting debate. I think there would be a benefit for at least one party, and that would probably be Democrats, to insist on the stability of governance.
Be clear to the American people, Donald Trump and Republicans are lying. Federal law currently prohibits health care funds being used for undocumented immigrants, period, full stop. And no one is asking for that law to be repealed. This shows you how desperate they are. If Donald Trump really believed that he had a strong position here, then why'd you back out of the meeting, bro? Why? I don't understand. Let's have this debate in front of the American people. And on our side of the debate, we're very clear. You promised, Donald Trump promised, to love and cherish Medicaid. He said that in January of this year, and then they turned around, these extreme MAGA Republicans, and what did they do? They enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. That's what the American people are facing right now, and that's what we're fighting hard to address, the Republican manufactured and created health care crisis. And it's on all the things, including the Affordable Care Act, which is deeply popular with the American people. Medicaid, deeply popular with the American people. Medical research, deeply popular with the American people. Medicare, deeply popular with the American people. These are the things that we are fighting hard to protect, to fix our broken healthcare system, and to make sure that healthcare costs don't continue to skyrocket in an environment where life is already too expensive because of Donald Trump, his Trump tariffs, the skyrocketing electricity costs, skyrocketing grocery costs, skyrocketing health care costs, skyrocketing housing costs. Like the majority of the American people, the overwhelming majority of the American people know the country is heading in the wrong direction. Why would we continue to allow Donald Trump to engage in the same old thing? And so our message to him is simple, 8 words, easy for him to understand. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care.
Look, we got to be clear about one thing off the top. The whole debt ceiling thing is absolutely idiotic. Almost no other country in the world has this thing where every year, seemingly, often, sometimes multiple times a year, there's this whole shutdown chicken game, right? Like it needs to be getting rid of the whole debt ceiling. But insofar as it exists, they're right. The clips are right. Parties often have the actual debate about avoiding a debt ceiling by reaching a deal, but then also, on the other hand, planning the political game about who gets blamed for if and when a shutdown happens. Now, the thing Republicans have failed at here is they've made it clear they're going to take the blame, because one of the threats Donald Trump is making, and his side is making, is that if there's a shutdown, anybody who loses their job, we're just going to not bring them back. And whether that threat is genuine or whether they're just bluffing, the reality is they're already saying in advance, we're taking the blame. Because what the Democrats would do is what would happen all the time. And I'm not trying to defend it, but like workers, lose their job for a time. They often get back pay. They get their job back. They start getting paid again. Like it's obviously terrible to happen to members of the working class who serve the public. But like it's happened before. It'll probably continue to happen. Right? But what Trump is saying is no, very proudly, as a threat to people, if you go through with this, we're going to permanently end these people's careers. And they're saying that, though. They're saying that because they're already taking the blame. In their effort to try and scare people into supporting this bad budget bill that they want to push, the reality is that they're taking the blame. So remember this. Trump and his side are saying, and at-risk House Republicans, Senate Republicans are already distancing themselves from this. You know they are, at least quietly, because they're making it clear that if a shutdown happens and people lose their job, it goes all the way to the White House.